just initially, what do you make of Deion Sanders making over $10 million a year, Jimmy?
I think he's overpaid. Now let's. I would dissect this from two different angles. Number one, what has he accomplished at Colorado compared to Josh Heupel or other coaches? He's done okay. He took over a bad program that was 1-11, and he made them, at least brought attention in the first year. They weren't a very good team. The second year, they won 9 games, got blown out in a bowl game. But then I compared that to what Josh Heupel did, and let's not make any mistake about this. Josh Heupel inherited a mess. He inherited a 3-7 team, and over 40 players left the program, whether that was in the transfer portal, whether that was players that signed and didn't come in. So he had an absolute firestorm when he came in. And in his second year, what did he do? He won 11 games. He got and was right on the cusp of the college football playoff, got in the Orange Bowl and beat Clemson. So he had a better year than what Deion Sanders had in his second year at Colorado. Now, on the flip side of that, you have to give Sanders some credit for bringing attention to that Colorado program. They were bad. They weren't drawing people. They do have some revenue now that they didn't have beforehand. So I've got to give him credit for that. I don't know how much credit I don't know how to quantify in dollars the fact that they had some highly rated TV games. Okay. Did that help them in the coffers? I don't know. Did it bring attention to the program? Yes. Did it help with recruiting? Yes. But here's my thing about Deion making that kind of money right now. What is year 3 going to look like when you don't have Shadir Sanders, who was top 5 on the Heisman Trophy, top 6, and Travis Hunter, who won the Heisman Trophy? Take those 2 away, and what is Colorado going to be? 6-6, 7-5. So you've just paid $10 million to a coach. It's going to be, in my opinion, barely above 500. So I question that. I think he's overpaid. To me, he had to prove more to justify that kind of money.
All right, let's do this right now. Let's go to today's tough question, and it's pretty simple. Who deserves more money? Is it Josh Heupel or is it Deion Sanders?
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now, take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right. So today's tough question is presented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Jimmy, who deserves to make more money based off their resume? Is it Josh Heupel and we can make that a poll question, Caleb, if you don't mind. Is it Josh Heupel or is it Deion Sanders?
I think it's Josh Heupel based on the resume. I mentioned earlier that in year 2, he won 11 games and won the Orange Bowl and beat a good Clemson team. Not only beat them, he beat them badly. And Colorado goes to a bowl game, they get blown out. Colorado, I give them credit for the rebuilding job that Deion Sanders has done. But let's face it, the SEC is a whole lot tougher than the Big 12. I mean, how many people remember who won the Big 12 last year? So, who was that?
I would have to think about that.
Yeah, so Colorado won 9 games in a conference that's not very good. The SEC and the Big 10 are by far the best conferences, right? So while I do think he's done a really good job at Colorado, I think Josh Heupel's done better. He's been at it longer. He had a good record at Central Florida. He's had a good record at Tennessee. He has beaten Florida. He's beaten Alabama. He's won a significant bowl game, which is more than Deion Sanders has done. In my mind, without a doubt, Josh Heupel should get paid more than Deion Sanders.
I'm with you. I can't argue that. And Caleb, I want you to weigh in there. It is the body of work that I look at, and he's coached almost double the amount of games. Let's not forget that if you want to look at some of his win totals, that those happened at Jackson State. And no offense against Jackson State, but I like my chances when I have a Travis Hunter and a Shadir Sanders against most of the teams in Jackson State. Caleb, would you disagree with that?
Yeah, if you can recruit 5-star talent at an FCS school, you're going to have a pretty good advantage. That and I give Deion Sanders the credit for recruiting them. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from him. He is he knows what he's good at, and he's using his promo skills to his advantage, which kudos to that. I got no problem with it. I think one of the things that stands out, and I'm with you guys, Josh Heupel should get paid more. I think I'm with Jimmy. I think it's really underrated what Josh Heupel did at Tennessee in 2021. I think I'll go on record and say that may be the best first-year coaching job I think that was ever done at Tennessee in football. Honestly, I don't know if you guys know of a better one. Y'all covered Tennessee football a lot longer than I have, but I mean, I would say he inherited, and I want to go back in history, and Jimmy, you could maybe speak to this, but I would say he inherited as big of a mess as Johnny Majors did in 1977, and he did significantly better than Johnny Majors did in 1977.
Gosh, I might have to go back to Neyland's first year.
Well, Neyland inherited a pretty good situation from MB Banks, though.
I don't remember that. I have to look it up. I know that his first year is pretty darn good. I know his first few years he had a remarkable record, but yeah, I'd have to say it was better than Fulmer's first year. Or you've already mentioned Majors. You got Doug Dickey. Bowden Wyatt didn't have a great first year. So you get up to Fulmer's first full year was 93. They were pretty darn good in 93, but he also inherited a great roster. I mean, yet he's Schuler and a ton of, you had an outstanding running back core, right? With little man Stewart and Aaron Hayden, and I guess Charlie Garner came the next year. But yeah, he had great talent that he inherited. So I think going 7-6 with the roster that was inherited by a quarterback that, I mean, Hooker was really a Virginia Tech reject, right? They didn't want him. So I think he did a masterful job in year one with the new system and with the limited amount of, in my opinion, talent. And what talent he had, he maximized it, because Hooker became a great quarterback. And Jalen Hyatt wasn't that good the first year. He dropped so many passes, he got benched. But I thought he did a really nice job with the limited talent that he had.
Also, you bring up the point that Deion resurrected Colorado from 6 feet under. Well, I mean, Tennessee with the NCAA issues, they were 12 feet under. I mean, it was just not really a comparison. I understand building a program out of nothing. That's very, very difficult, and you don't see it a lot. But you do see it from time to time when you build a program out of nothing at, say, TCU, and I know they have history, but basically they're on the trash pile. You build up a program at other places. I'm thinking of what would it be? What was the school who made the college football playoff? They got blown out. Your number one smaller school out of Ohio. Sorry,
Cincinnati. Boise State.
Cincinnati. Well, Boise State's another good example. You could Boise State or Cincinnati. That is done. What is not easily done most of the time is when you're building a program back that has NCAA issues, which no team may have NCAA issues ever again, because we don't know what that governing body is going to be. But I look at the way he built back Tennessee. Southern California had to go through Lane Kiffin to build that back. We all know about the death penalty at SMU. That's an extreme. But when you have those sorts of NCAA penalties levied on you, that's a lot worse than just assembling talent.
Well, it is. And to your point as well, think about how hard it is to recruit when there's the element of the unknown that's going on. You know that other schools are recruiting against you. Hey, they're going to get hammered. They're not going to go to bowl games. There's no telling what's going to happen. Look at all the scholarship reductions. So that makes it even harder to recruit. So what you had to do was try to maximize the players that you inherited. And the first year was not this transfer portal and you're immediately eligible deal. That wasn't really going on at that time. So grad transfers could transfer in and be immediately eligible, but the portal had not really hit its peak at the time that Heupel took over. So yeah, I think he did a marvelous job. And heck, there were some really good players who went elsewhere that did all right, like Eric Gray and Wanye Morris. And I mean, there were some really good players that left the program that had nice careers elsewhere.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Sorry, I also wanted to hop in on this because, funny enough, we're talking about this about Deion. The last time we talked contracts and a coach making more than Josh Heupel, Jimmy, was you were on. It was when Bill Belichick's contract with UNC was confirmed and he was making more than Josh Heupel now at UNC. How personal do you think Josh Heupel has taken this, that these two less proven coaches have now surpassed him in pay? And is that going to come up when he wants to negotiate next year?
Yes.
It might. It would also behoove him to have a good season before he negotiates. And I'm not sure he's headed for a really good year, by the way. I'm in the minority of people that have picked Tennessee to go over on the 9.5 projection out of Vegas. I don't see that. But
this is actually the first year I'm leaning towards under as well.
I'm definitely leaning under. I don't see it. Not with this roster. Now, give me a few weeks and let's see if they bring in some impactful portal players, then I might change my mind. But right now, I would. It's an easy bet for me to go under 9.5. Easy.
Speaking of numbers, how about this one? I'm going to throw a couple at you. We know that Deion's making about $10 million a year. Heupel making about $9 million a year. Again, these guys are financially secure. I mean, everything's fine. They're not hurting for money, but still, there's some ego in this that you want to be one of the highest paid coaches. And there's Jimmy Sexton. I'm not sure if he's Josh Heupel's agent or not, but there are agents out there that want a little bit more. You know, Christmas is a little bit nicer when they get their 5% of an extra million. So Heupel has gone 65-23 at Tennessee and Central Florida. Sanders has gone 40-18, but my goodness, I have to mention Jackson State again. So the records are nowhere close, especially being in the SEC. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's say, for instance, Deion Sanders is the greatest recruiter of all time, and that's how he got Shedeur Sanders, and they didn't even know they were related before they started in the recruiting. I don't know, but that's not true. And he also knew Travis Hunter, who he was willing to flood a lot of money to in the NIL era, and he dominated at Jackson State, was able to go to Colorado. But how about this? This one surprised me. Jimmy, just off the top of your head, where would you think that Colorado was recruiting and finished recruiting in the 2025 class? You too, Caleb. I mean, just give me a ballpark, because I thought it would be significantly higher.
I would say Colorado was about 25 in recruiting.
See,
and the reason I say that is, and I don't know what you're talking about, high school recruiting, right?
Well, they're all combined together now, so it includes transfers.
It does include the transfer portal.
Yeah, they've got a whole new formula.
Okay, 20 to 25 would be my guess.
That would have been mine, which, in my opinion, if you drop below 25, you do not have a real opportunity to compete for a championship. That's just always been my thought. If you do that progressive years.
And that would have been mine too, for the record.
Okay. 37. 37 to me is I covered recruiting a long time. That's another stratosphere of bad. I mean, that to me means you don't have the talent coming in. I would be stunned if Deion Sanders finishes out this contract and is not the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Now I've got Jimmy thinking and lamenting because he's a Cowboys fan as well. He doesn't want to see this happen, and neither do I. But I'm just telling you, he's not going to serve out this contract.
Don't y'all both think as long as Jerry Jones is alive, he would never want to coach like Deion Sanders that would steal his shine?
No, he loves his former players. I think if Michael Irvin wanted to do cocaine off of Jerry Jones's desk, he'd allow him to do so. He
loves former players named Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd love to have the spotlight taken away from him like Deion would. It's an interesting situation, and that's assuming that the Dallas coach. Let's see what I'm trying to remember. What Jones said about Schottenheimer about. I took a risk. Look at the risk I took. Don't tell me I'm not a risk taker. How do you feel like if you're the guy that just got hired as the coach? Thank you for that.
I don't feel good about it. Yeah, I don't feel good about it. And I say take a risk and get some free agents. So today's tough question I ask you both, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Who deserves to be paid more, Josh Heupel or Deion Sanders?
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. Banks & Jones.
All right, Jimmy, we're going to move forward here. We first
one quick
though,
thing for those who
Yes.
say Jimmy is just some negative Nancy because he says Tennessee won't be as good this year. I had learned recently, tracking some archives and speaking with Jimmy, that Jimmy stood alone calling for Tennessee to go 11-1 in 1998 when everybody thought they were going to rebuild that year. So
I sure
Jimmy's
did.
had a
All right,
Yeah.
so Jimmy, does Deion deserve to be paid more or less than Josh Heupel?
Oh, you want me to answer that again?
Oh, did you kind of answer? Okay, so you would take Josh Heupel. Caleb, let me go to you. Would you
Absolutely.
take Josh?
Yeah, I would take Josh Heupel simply for his year at Tennessee, and I would also take Josh Heupel over Bill Belichick. And I mean, one of those three coaches has made the college football playoff, and it's not Deion Sanders or Bill Belichick.
All right. What
about you, Dave? Who are you taking?
I don't think it's close. I don't think. I mean, I think Heupel at 9 or 10ish is fine. I think Deion at 10, almost 11 is ridiculous. I mean, I think it speaks to leverage. I think Josh Heupel's very happy at Tennessee. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I think Deion Sanders, they know that if he leaves, that they're back at ground zero. And unless I don't know, Darryl Green is an incredible coach that played cornerback in the NFL. They're not going to have another good direction to go. They'll have to go with a solid coach, which doesn't exactly scream TV ratings nor ticket sales. And he wants to sell out the spring game. So he has his mind on the money end of it.